Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Widowhood. My guest today is Miss Laureen Flood Rivers. Hey, Laureen.
Hey, Minister Tina.
Why are you laughing? What's so funny?
Just the Minister Tina, your face.
It is. And
I can't help it. It's your name.
No, that's okay. And some of you may not know that I'm an ordained minister. And that is nothing that I have a problem with. But I'll actually explain that. So thank you for making that point of conversation. When Widowhood Real Talk with Tina was started, it was created with the intention to meet people at their point of need in their grief. And I know that sometimes when people are grieving, their relationship with their faith is shot to trash.
Yes.
And I did not want that to be a hindrance. And when my pastor and I spoke about me starting this nonprofit, we spoke about the idea that, one, everyone is not a Christian. And I understand that. And I didn't want the idea that I am an ordained minister underneath the Christian faith to be a hindrance for someone that they could not feel love and support when they interact with me.
Okay.
Because if Minister Tina came first, that's what they would see. And not only would they hear the word minister, they would probably think about every minister that relates to their past.
Right.
Whether that was a positive or negative experience. So it would become standoffish. And the intention was this nonprofit is not faith-based.
Right.
So in me mentioning my own personal story, my faith in God is the only way that I have been able to endure this great loss.
Gotcha.
So, yes, I am an ordained minister, and
She is.
and Laureen knows our relationship started in that particular part of my life. So that is how our relationship is, and I don't have a problem with it because I know that that's what God has called me to do. But what I know is true in me walking in my calling, whether the title is up front, the love is felt. And that is what I believe that people are supposed to receive from God, not a title, not
That's right.
this concept of being judged, but to be meeting people at their place of need. And in that place of need, feeling that relationship with God, people will ask me like how for real, like you ain't lost all of your mind. And I will start with this. A lot of times people are mad and upset with God, and they're holding that inside. And I have learned from the people that I've interacted with, until they're able to be honest that they're mad with God, they can be stuck in a place that they are not honestly dealing with their grief in all the aspects of it. What would you say to that part?
Well, my relationship with you started in the heart of my grief over the loss of my son.
Your son's name?
Jihad. I said we called him Hadi.
Hadi, okay.
His name is Jihad Nasir Rivers, and we call him Hadi. J-Rock, he had a lot of names. He's my baby.
Okay.
I'm the youngest child of 5.
So we're going to go with Hadi today.
We're going to go with Hadi.
Okay,
We're going to go with Hadi because that's where everybody related to him as. But when I met you at Shawnee Church, I didn't have a great relationship with my church, my home church, which was about an hour and a half away from where I relocated. In New Jersey, in North New Jersey. I loved my bishop. I love him. He was the first male father figure, first male that I actually reverenced in my life. Was Bishop. He's And I couldn't talk to him. I thought I could talk to him after the murder of my. I won't say the death.
Okay.
My son was murdered.
Right.
And that's clear. That, he didn't just up and die. Somebody, he died at someone else's hand, and it was hard for me to understand why God chose me to, take my son.
But did it start with how God let this happen to me?
Yes, it was a
'Cause I
lot.
saw you trying to practice that all
Yeah,
correctly. When it
it's
happened, it
like,
was like, God, I've been serving you. God, I've been faithful. God, I've been doing this. How you gonna let this
yes.
happen to my baby?
Well, my question was, God, have I been serving you right? Have I been serving you in spirit and truth?
Okay.
I was Muslim,
Okay.
and I chose Jesus
Oh, okay.
as as my Lord and Savior. And so it was a transition for my family. My children, I started them off. They just knew Muslim,
Okay.
and I believe that I became Muslim because my brother was Muslim.
Okay.
I don't believe that I chose it for my relationship with God or a God. I think that it was just you following who is into religion. I had to find something at the time, and my mother didn't display that. But anyway, let me get back to how I was feeling about God when the night that my son was murdered. I have a lot of different clips of memory um, about that night, but I also had a experience with God myself and one of the church members of my church. The Friday before my son was killed, I saw him. I saw his spirit,
Okay.
and I was anointing people in the neighborhood where he hung out.
Okay.
He pressed me to bring him bless oil that we received every year from our church, and he ran out. And he called me, Ma, I need some oil. He was so determined that the oil was going to save that hood. All the people in the hood. He would, when I gave him the oil, I had to anoint him with it. And we had this prayer that we did. Anoint your head, your ears, your mouth, your heart, and your feet. And when I did him that night, the next person stepped up and asked, Mommy, do me. Mommy, do. And it was over. And it was just an experience that only myself and Michelle Bryant, she was Cooper at the time, can remember. Over those 3 days, God prepared me for his death. I believe that. On Friday, he died on the morning of the 29th of July.
What day of the week was that?
It was a Tuesday morning. I'm almost sure, in 2003. And we attended the wedding of our assistant pastor on a Friday night. And I had promised to bring him this oil. So when we left the reception after dancing in these heels, we were barefoot, and I was driving Michelle's car. And I just pulled up on the block looking for him. Like, he wasn't out there. There's a bunch of people out there, but he wasn't out there at first. And they ran and got him. That's how things worked in that hood. And you could hear, Mommy's here, Mommy's here, Mommy's here, like going around. So, because they sold drugs there, they did, it was a little bit of everything on that, that little area right there. So he came around the corner, and the first thing he said was, you want my oil? So I was like, yeah, Michelle got a box of oil in the trunk. So we started. I went to give him his oil. I had a big one, and the other ones were like little small vials with the little black tops on them. So I gave it to him. I handed it to him. He was like, "I don't want that. You got to put it on me." So I was like, "I don't have no shoes on, whatever." So he leaned down on the car. We on the one-way street. I'm on the driver's side. I pulled on the left, and I had the door open, and he leaned down, on the curb, and I anointed his head, and I anointed his ears, I anointed his mouth, I anointed his heart, and I was leaning out the car to do his feet. So when I leaned out the car to do his feet, I'm leaning all the way down. I sat straight back up. I got a little dizzy. I felt a little dizzy. So then when he got ready to step away from the car, "Hi, mommy, do me. Hi, mommy." And it was over and over. So much so that the police pulled up and was like, "What's going on?" or whatever. And I told that officer, "Get in line. We out here anointing people." "Yeah, what? You want some oil?" So we even gave them oil that night. It was the two officers. So while I was anointing everybody else, I kind of threw my feet out the car because it got a little crazy to be going to the side. Jahad was standing up against the wall. I'm going to call it the graffiti wall, because there was a brick wall on that block, and it had different things written on it. But he leaned on the wall, put his foot up, and I think one arm was like kind of behind his head, and he was just watching me, just like approval, shaking his head. So when I was anointing somebody and I sat up, I saw him, like I said, I felt dizzy. I saw him standing there, and I saw the little smile, not a big smile, but like an approval type of, "I'm happy with, go ahead, mommy," that kind of thing. And Michelle had walked around the car by then. So when I leaned up this time and I looked at him, I saw him above himself. Like, you know how you get dizzy, blur? Right, I saw him above himself. So I shook my head and I looked at Michelle, and she was staring at me. And I said, "Did you see that?" She said, "Yes. Yes, I saw it." And we just left it alone. So we left. After doing that, we didn't have any more oil. It was a box of maybe 90.
Wow.
So that many bottles of oil got given away in that area.
And that's Friday night.
That's Friday night.
So now, what happened Tuesday, the day that he was murdered?
Well, Saturday, I'm gonna have to go the days, because I'm telling you, there was a preparation. Friday night, Saturday morning, we were supposed to have a conference at our church that Michelle was supposed to be at, I was supposed to be at. When we were driving home, Michelle said, "Bishop gonna kill us," like that. He told us don't go out there without covering and start laying our hands on people. He used to always say this, spirits and demons are things. When they fly out of somebody, they gotta fly into somebody. That Saturday morning, Michelle and I was sick. I mean sick, both of us. Like we had a flu or something. So I didn't get out of bed Saturday morning.
Okay.
Saturday night, I got a frantic phone call in the middle of the night from Jahad. "I'm down here at the hospital. They won't let me see him. They won't let me see him." They had a drive-by shooting in the same spot where we were standing. And he had a friend they called P. His name was Pierre, that got shot in the arm with something that kind of took his elbow out. Like it was a bad. He was the only one that got shot, but there were other people. My son was standing there who got grazed, according to what they told me, and my godson. They were all standing out there. And that drive-by, Jahad wasn't standing right there. He was on the other side of the street looking. And when he called me, his words to me were, "Yeah, Ma, I'm leaving. I saw some things and I can't trust nobody here." So I'm like, "What are you talking about? They won't let me see Peter." I'm like, "Calm down. They're saying that he's not at the hospital." I said, "He just got shot. They put him on in the hospital under a alias. That's what happens when somebody, gets shot and they don't know who shot him. They don't know whether they're gonna try to come finish the job or whatever. So when they put him in the hospital, they do." So I talked to him, got him calmed down, get away from the hospital. They're not gonna let you see him, whatever. Call his family or whatever you can do, but you gotta get away from the hospital because he's like, "They just gonna have to lock me up," that kind of thing. I need to see him. So that was Saturday night. He gave away his oil that Saturday. I was going on Sunday to a college to help one of my friends, Pierre, Vanel, sign his son into college. He's a Haitian guy that I was dating at the time. And we took his son to they were going to put him in a summer program for like a month to get him ready for college. So I told you how when I came back, I would bring it to him because he said that to me that Saturday night. That's what they said. I don't have no oil. He was dependent on this oil. So I gave my oil away. "No problem. I'll bring you some." So when we came from the college, we stopped where he was staying at, which is his girlfriend's house, Tanya. And we pulled the car up and they called for him to come down. He came downstairs. He ain't had no shirt on. He had on jeans, had his locks up in the air. And he came over to the car. Me and him threw this on me, but he came over to the car. I gave him the oil, said a few words to him. "You need to, what you doing today? Don't be out here tonight," like warnings. "Don't be out here tonight. We could talk about what you wanted to talk about later." He said it was some people in his circle that he couldn't trust because he saw how they moved prior to this drive-by. He thought they had something to do with it because they they went into the hallway with their weapons instead of protecting the people that were out there. Okay, so basically that's what he said. He told me who it was and we were going to talk about it. Fine. So when I gave him the oil on Sunday, he said he wasn't going to be out there, that Tanya's father bought her a car. They was going to the movies and they were going to be in the house, and he was going to come to my house that night and stay at my house. That's Sunday afternoon, like about 3:00 on Sunday afternoon. So I'm sitting there in the car with Vanel, and Jahaz walking away. So he gets to the top of the steps and we saying bye, bye. And we do this real quick to see who get it done first. So we both did it kind of at the same time. And I just watched him standing up there. And then Vanel was like, "What's the matter?" to me. And I said, "Huh?" He said that so many tears all over my shirt. I had I'm gonna say a unnatural cry. I didn't even feel that I was crying. But when he said it to me, I said, he said, "What's wrong? Like, what is the matter?" And I said to him, "I just feel like I'm not gonna see him again." And then he said, "You're crying." And I touched my face. I mean, so many tears. Like, and I believe that Vanel and Michelle were placed where they were placed that weekend as a witness to what I was experiencing. So that it wasn't like a figment of my imagination, that it was a encounter with God in the way that God encounters you. So the whole seeing his he's standing here and his head goes up here and it look, it's like being cross-eyed. and seeing two images. But the images weren't like this, they were like this. And that's what Michelle and I discussed, a little bit going home. And then Varnell and I discussed, he said, I've never seen nobody cry like that. Like, I mean, my shirt was, and I never even saw a tear. I didn't know. And I don't think he saw it either, because he was still smiling at me and still doing, his face would have changed. Like, he would have become alarmed. So I really don't think Jahaz saw it. From the distance that I just don't think he saw it. Because like I said, if he saw tears coming down my face like that, he'd have ran back to the car and said something to me. So that was the last time I saw him physically, was on Sunday. He did not come and stay at my house on Sunday night. I'm going to say he died Monday night going into Tuesday morning. I'm not really sure. But I know it was Tuesday the 29th. I know that because I buried him. I had his funeral so fast. Very quickly, to where it disturbed people.
So we started off with one thing.
Okay.
What were your instant feelings with your relationship with God when Heidi was murdered? Your initial feelings.
My initial feelings, I never even thought about God when it first happened. Okay. I didn't think about God. I thought about when I first saw him, when I got to the scene where he got shot, I got a phone call, I'm asleep, 1-something in the morning.
Okay, so let's
go there.
Let's go to the events of Tuesday.
Okay, so I'm asleep, and I had a cell phone and a house phone, and they both went off at the same time. So I'm asleep, so I wake up and I don't know what to reach for first. So I picked up my house phone, and I heard somebody screaming, "He got shot! He got shot! Mommy, he got shot! Heidi got shot!" I hear that on that phone. So I reach for the other phone, for the cell phone, and got somebody else screaming on this, but this is a male, this is a female. I'm like, calm down, what's going on? We on Ellis in Springfield. Jahad just got shot. That was my goddaughter. So, which is also she's related to my pastor's family. So I'm waking up out my sleep. And the first thing I do is go running down the hall. I lived in an apartment building, to my friend Cheryl, because I didn't have my car to take me there.
And probably not in the headspace that you needed to anyway.
Right, and I know I wasn't in a good headspace because I had on a nightgown that was not fit for me banging on her door and her opening the door. She got people in her house playing cards. So I wasn't really, dressed, but she looked at me and that's fine. We threw, she walked me down the hall. I threw something on, threw like a jacket over it. It's July 29th, almost August. So I just threw something over it. I can't remember what I threw over it, but I still had the bedclothes on under it. And we just, jetted. Jumped on the parkway. It's 2 exits. And when we got there, it's a big avenue, Springfield Avenue. When we got there, it was blocked off on one side. So we had to go around the block. And they had the gate down. He was killed in the doorway of a restaurant, or in a restaurant. So we went around the corner. They closed the gate in front, but didn't think to close the side gate. It's on a corner. So when I jumped out the car and I went running, and I went to look. They had police tape here. So that was preventing me, of course, from going around. So I looked in the window and I could see somebody laying there, the whole sheet covering him thing. And I could see the bottom of his shoes. And he and one of his friends did artwork on the bottom of Tim's. That was their signature thing they did. And I knew that was the shoes with his artwork, but my head said, somebody got on his boots. I need to see. You know they wear each other's stuff all the time.
It's something about, whenever possible, to visualize that for yourself. Because like you said, the mind wants to do something else.
All kinds of trips happening.
Run as far away as possible from the reality that they are no longer breathing in this world.
Exactly. And I just decided that I needed to see for myself. So I went to go around the corner, went through the police tape, and detective came out. He said he knew me by first name basis. Laureen, you can't go. You can't see him. I'm like, why? They're saying that's my son. I need to see. Then he's like, it's Jihad. He told me. He said, I've already identified him, and we have to just wait for the medical exam. And we can't move him. He's pronounced. He started saying all that, and he said, I'm sorry for your loss. That's what he said, but it is him, whatever. So I said, so you're not gonna let me see him? Basically, like, you ain't gonna let me see him. I need to see him. You giving me condolences. Let me see that's my son, my child, and let me see. He wouldn't let me see him. So he started kind of guiding me. I didn't like break down. I didn't do none of that. I was pissed off that he didn't let me see him. And then I started looking around at everybody that was standing out there. Like 65% of them called me mommy. And I'm saying, did they just get here? I started thinking, my head went straight investigate. Like, so I remember yelling, not saying, who shot Hottie? Who the hell shot my son? And just looking at all these people. And he said, the detective said, that's where we need your help.
And what year is this?
2003.
Okay.
Once, like I said, by that time it's going on 2:00 in the morning. And it's people outside, like it's 2:00 in the afternoon. It's just a lot of people out, It's summertime, so it's just a lot of people out. And this chicken joint was probably the only thing open. They was open all night, Most of the time they were putting those hoods, and Jahar wasn't the first person to die there, and wasn't the last either. Because that would be the spot late at night where everybody is at. So they had many shootings there on that whole avenue. But Jahar was born in that neighborhood.
Are you able, when you think about his murder, is it still as painful and raw today as it was then?
No.
Oftentimes, people will ask, does it get any better?
What I can say about the moment when I screamed, who shot my son, who killed my son, I took a deep breath, and I don't think that I exhaled that breath until about 2 years ago.
What happened in 2 years to make you finally exhale?
I made it through the month of July and never recognized the date until somebody said it to me. And when they said it to me, I knew, actually, I'm going to say more like 4 years ago. When they said it to me, I realized that I didn't think about it. That, you know what I mean? I wasn't pressed. Oh, God, here comes July. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't think about it. And when I realized that, I knew that it was well with my soul. It took a long time. But not that I'm I've gotten over it, but it let me know that I got through it. I will never get over outliving my child.
Right.
Period. It's just unnatural. It's an unnatural thing for any parent to bury their child. It's just not natural.
I would agree. You said it took 2 years for you to come to this place. What were some of the initial parts?
Oh, it was longer than 2 years. I'm saying from now, like 4 years ago.
Okay.
He died in 2003. This year was the 21st year of his death.
Okay.
He was 21 when he died. He was supposed to be born 3 days before my 21st birthday. And we lived on 21st Street when he was born.
So this episode is going to be aired on November 21st.
Yes.
To stay in line with that.
Absolutely.
So
Go
when you
ahead.
think about the road to being where you finally got to, can you think of 2 or 3 things that were very important in that road to get to where you are now? Or where you found yourself 4 years ago at that point? What are some things that served you well?
One of the things that served me well comes back to you. I was Jihad's death and grief made me very ill. I mean, I was sick unto death when I was in Pennsylvania, when I met you.
So grief will do that.
Oh,
And we
absolutely.
don't talk about it enough. Grief can, one, make it impossible to sleep.
Yes.
And if you're not sleeping, your body's not rejuvenating.
Right.
Your body's not resting. And you can be angry. That tension in your body
Yes.
that's caused disease. The
Fibromyalgia, diabetes, you name it.
anxiety.
Yes,
You
I have
a cardi-
neuropathy.
You have a cardiac situation.
Yep.
All of those things can come from grief.
Yes.
And people's health starts diminishing. And that is actually why we do the Walk for Love in August. Because when you start grieving, you isolate, you disconnect from society, and your health is on the last bit of stuff. We're sometimes eating to self-medicate.
Or not eating.
Or not eating, or drinking, or using
I did that.
drugs.
I
And a
did the
lot-
whole drinking thing.
Your body is going, I cannot make good sales with this. You're
That's
giving me
right.
trash. So just the idea, I just wanted to expound on that a little bit because
Yes.
our health can suffer tremendously while grieving.
Well, I was grieving and isolated. When it first happened, I went on the road. I traveled everywhere. I just drove. Driving I drove across this country. I drove everywhere. I went to see everybody who was not connected to me in my life at the time that Jihad died. I was not only angry with God, I was angry with my family. I was angry with
The world.
the world, but mainly a lot of people that was connected to him, because there was a mystery. You know, when you don't know the people who killed your child or killed your family member.
There's a lot of unfinished business.
Yes, and you know, I listen to people talk about PTSD. Our children coming from I came from Essex County, New Jersey. There is as much murder in Essex County, New Jersey, and any war that this country has fought anywhere for American citizens to be dying. These young people are desensitized to death and killing.
Oh.
And I'm talking 2003, and it's even worse today. If, you know, I was looking at this memorial page, I was fighting people from putting my son on it for years. And that year that I realized that I didn't dread July, because I made it through the 29th and didn't even know I was in the 29th, I decided to put him on that memories wall for people who died of gun violence.
Just now you were ready.
I was ready. I didn't want I shook up a Pepsi and sprayed it on some people in Irvington. That's where he died, Irvington, New Jersey, because they put his picture in rest in peace. And I didn't want that because there was no rest or peace related to his dying.
Do you think that was just a hustle and trying to make money off of his passing?
No, they were trying to honor him, but I didn't see it that way, and I didn't give them permission to do it.
So I want to pause right there.
Mm-hmm.
People will do things that they think are helpful.
Right.
But if they don't ask the person who they think they're helping, they won't know if they're on point or not.
Exactly. You know, I felt disrespected. Ask me. I wasn't resting, and I didn't have any peace.
And there's a lot of cliches or things that people say. And you're going to talk about the things that have served you well in this process of getting to where you're at.
I found out that breathing is helps your health.
It does.
Deep breathing, when you hold your breath, grief makes you hold your breath.
Hyperventilating.
Grief makes you hold your breath. Everything that you come across that give you a memory, you tighten that breath up more, and you never release it completely. So all of the toxicity that grief brought me, I was holding it in. I was literally not breathing for 15 years. I'm going to say like 15 years. This is 21 years. I'm talking 5 or 6 years ago when I started getting connected with what I was actually feeling. I've been in therapy. I've had 2 great therapists, one in Pennsylvania and one that was like a clone of her in North Carolina, which was great, which is great for me. And they were totally different from me. They were young and they were white women. So we had to first get through our differences in order for me to feel comfortable enough to to talk to them about personal, and we talked about the weather, we did a lot of stuff, but it took time. And I accepted the fact that I needed counsel. Everybody can't counsel ministry disappointed me. I'm gonna put that in there. It felt like more like a brush off than anything. Like whenever I went to express myself, they was like, "Oh, don't feel like that." Like when I said, "I'm so pissed off with God." You know what I mean? Like I'm just pissed off. Like what? Why would God do this to me? What kind of God does that?
Hun.
And when I expressed, "Oh, don't say that," their fears. I didn't say I didn't fear God. I said I was pissed off with God. You're the first minister that I spoke those words to that said, we were in your car, in the truck, we were in your car, and you had came to help me do some stuff because the church did a great job getting me set up in my own place in Pennsylvania, and everybody played a role. And you came over to take me. I don't know what you took me to do. I can't remember exactly that. What I remember is saying that to you. And you saying to me, "That's okay. That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine for you to feel that way. Who wouldn't feel that way?" And that opened up something in me. Like I was just ready to get out the church. Like I felt like a hypocrite going to church, Singing helped me a lot. But you gotta fight your way into choirs.
That's the podcast for another time.
Yes, but anyway, singing was helped me. But that moment, I'm gonna go back to that moment when it opened up something in me that you connected with what I was saying. My experience after my son died was people didn't want me to say his name. It made them uncomfortable.
And that's the first thing I want people to do.
Right. They didn't want to listen to my funny stories or my sad stories. They would, change the subject. That's why I was mad with family members. And I was so angry with them. I had an experience with some of my family members right after he died during the initial funeral arrangement. And I had just moved into where and I was preparing the house because I knew I was going to have a bunch of family. Um, I'm a I'm the security in my family. That's how I felt. And we making the funeral arrangements. I look up and there were certain key family members that weren't there that I was looking for. The babies. Like, where's the baby? What y'all doing with the babies? We didn't want to bring them because this is probably gang related and we didn't put them in danger. Those words offended me.
But were they true?
They were. They were. They absolutely were.
What would you tell Laureen that day, knowing where you are now?
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. There was nothing you could have done to change his destiny. That was his walk. That was his life and his death. It wasn't yours. Didn't belong to me. He lived a life a certain way. He loved his friends. Like as much as he loved his family. He was the weirdest kid to some people, but his loyalty was real. His loyalty to his family, his loyalty to his friends was real. It wasn't fake. It was a lifestyle. His loyalty was a lifestyle for him. I use that term a lot because that's what I can tell Laureen today. His life was to, if anything, was to show me what loyalty really is. That is, it's not, loyalty is not a birthright. It's just not, especially in our families, You can be as loyal as whatever. People will betray you every time. But he was loyal. He was honest, brutally. And loved. So many people loved him. His funeral spoke for that. We had a service the night before, and I wanted as many people of the faith to be there, and young people was just going over to them to be prayed for. And something I remember about that day that I didn't get to do it. I had a friend named Tina Brown. And when she came into that church, which is it's a church, a Baptist church where we had my mom's funeral, my nephew, and my son. It's huge. It used to be a synagogue, and it has the upstairs balcony, and it's just huge. The ceilings are high. And when she came down that aisle, and she saw him laying in that casket, she let out the loudest, most piercing scream that I had ever heard in my life. And all I could think of at that moment was, why didn't I scream like that? Why didn't I faint, fall out? It just didn't happen. It didn't happen. From looking through that window, seeing him laying, seeing these feet and legs, this sheet, I'll never forget it. That's embedded in my brain. I just won't forget it. It was my experience. At the time, I just couldn't. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking. Yes, I started doing stuff, which is my nature. I do stuff. I'm a doer. I don't talk about it. I be about it.
So if you were to talk to Laureen that day, what would you tell her to do, being the doer that you are? Knowing what you know now, what would you tell her to do?
I would have told her to go sit down. Go sit down and give yourself some grace.
So going back to mental health, was that something that was talked about in your community, to see a therapist or see somebody for things that were going on?
No, I absolutely had never seen, and I had some experience prior to having jihad as a young person, that I really would have, it would have served me well to be going into mental health back then. You know, like, we had some experiences, you know. I lived through the riots, and you know what I mean? Like sleeping on the floor because they were shooting over our heads. You know, so I came from, you know, we were living in Newark, New Jersey in the 60s during the riots, and where stuff was burnt, whole communities were burnt down, and state troopers was out, you know, not state troopers, they called in the National Guard. So I have those memories. So those young people from back then it would have served them well to be with therapists, but it wasn't talked about.
But you're absolutely right. And the thing that I find, and you can tell me, we can experience a lot of hardships in life, and we learn how to make our way through them.
Coping.
But the death of a loved one, become for all those coping skills, they don't.
They don't.
What were some coping skills that you used that you realize now they didn't serve you well?
A relentless investigation. I did things nobody know I did.
We ain't about to talk about that.
Right. You know what I mean? No, it was an investigation, you know. Like I needed to know things that I just found out.
And no way you could have made that happen.
No way I could have. And I just, you know, like I'm telling you, like the two young ladies were brought to my house and put in separate rooms. I did the whole detective thing. After he died, a young man came and said somebody came to a class and got a teardrop and said that, you know, because in this class was for people who had just got out of prison and they had to report to the college to a class. And a young man from our community was in that class. They had to be there during the week. And this young man who shot Jihad came to that class and they were talking, and this young man heard this conversation and he brought it back to me along with his government name. And he had to be on inmate.com if he just got out of prison. So that's what I did. I wanted the girls who saw it to identify who they saw.
So the investigation, what was another coping skill that you realized didn't serve
me well? You know, doing everything myself. Doing everything myself. Like not allowing anybody to, no. I can't say I didn't allow. I was very disappointed with the assistance that I received in planning his funeral and his repast. I was hoping and depending on my church to step in and just do, because that's what I do. You know, I'm the hostess.
But you know,
I just had a lot of stuff running through my head.
We often expect people to show up.
Like we show up.
Instead of understanding they're only going to show up the way that they know how.
The way that they know how. They're only going to do what they know how to do. I was raised in hospitality. My mama was the ultimate, you know,
right,
hostess.
And often that rolls into our loss. People don't know how to show up.
They don't.
Because it's not been their lived experience. But so many people will get disappointed because I thought this person was going to show up. Right. I thought this friend was going to show up. and they didn't show up. But when you go back and consider them, there's nothing in their repertoire that would make you think they were capable.
Exactly.
But our loss is so great that we expect them to miraculously figure it out.
Yeah.
The church disappointed. What are some things in church? What are some things that church people need to know ain't working helping somebody that's grieving?
God don't make no mistakes.
Okay.
You don't tell me after I just saw this boy laying on the ground with a sheet over him that God don't make no mistakes. Yes, he did. That's my baby laying there. So yes, he did. Those kind, like statements like that.
Going back to timing and gentleness.
Yeah.
See that God is perfect and God is that. But at this moment, that's not where you lay in that statement that
Right.
God didn't make mistakes. Save that for later.
Exactly.
But right now, just be present with me.
Be present. You don't have to say much.
Say that again.
You don't have to say much. You don't have to say anything. I don't need no cliches. Just be present. Just sit there quietly and be present. And when the words, I had to choke out words. People want to talk to me. They don't even know I couldn't breathe. I couldn't freaking breathe. I can't talk. Like, you know, when you get ready to cry and get choked up, how about that being your constant existence? And that's what it was. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted to do some things, which I did. I did what made me comfortable. And then after that, I felt guilty about that. You know, knowing who the person was and printing out pictures of people of the same. I did exactly what police do. I did an actual computer-generated lineup and put these two young ladies in different rooms and let them pick this person out. They picked out the same person.
So let me ask you this.
That was not a good thing for me to do. I shouldn't have done that.
But we do the best that we know how.
Yeah.
At that moment in time.
And I gave it to the police and they left him out there to die. They left him out there because once I knew who he was,
Other people.
well, they already knew because the kid had already told everybody. Not only did he get the information to me, but he already had
So street justice had.
right, street justice out his way. And, you know, my son died on July 29th. This person was dead on September 11th.
Was he the shooter?
Yes, he was. He was absolutely the shooter.
What did you think about hearing that he had been shot too?
It was another grief because all I could think about was his mama, who never thought about me. What do you do? What do we do as a community, even if we're neighbors? I said this on a radio show that I did last year. What do you do, or what do we do when your child kills my child? What do you do? What do you do as a community?
We struggle.
What do you do? What should you do? My ideal thought was that you're going to come over with a casserole and tell me just how sorry you are that your son or your child made that decision, and you're going to do everything that you can to help me through it. That was my thought. That was my thought. It wasn't my immediate thought.
Girl, no.
But it was my thought. Who is this family? Like, I didn't get the opportunity to do a trial and, you know, see people on one side, we on one side, you know. I didn't get the opportunity to be a victim. I'm a victim. My children are victims. My grandchildren are victims that knew him.
How was Jihad when he passed?
How old? He was 21.
A number 21.
The number 21 is very significant.
What are some things about him that mama knows that other people don't know about him?
He would come in your house and take one of your socks.
One sock?
One. He would leave you with one, and he would wear them. People would put in socks. You know how people put flowers in the grave? People would put in socks in theirs.
Really?
Yes.
What are some other things about your son?
He loved children. He used to walk the kids like little ducklings to the Chinese restaurant. They would be right behind him. He would go around and tell people, give me money. The super soaker. He get mad at the mothers of those children on the weekends, on the first of the month. They go get their hair and nails done. They gonna go out, and he would super soak their hair. I mean,
You talking about the water gun?
yes, you ain't going nowhere. You gonna stay home with the kids. I super soak them. Now, those are stories that I heard about him. I had no idea that he was studying or was so interested in gangs and gang life and the psychology of it. He talked to me about it. Like, why they following stupid people?
Did people think he was a gang member?
Oh, absolutely.
But what was he instead?
He was a Crip.
Okay. So he was a
Bottom line, yes, he was.
Mhm.
He absolutely was, and I believe publicly this might be the first time I said that.
Okay.
He was a Crip. He was involved in gang life. Because his entire community of his age range, the girls, the guys, everybody took a side.
He never knew anything different.
No, not from his peer group.
Right.
His peer group, that's what they were doing. But he had a problem with who they were following. So he started studying the origin of the Crips, and he went to Los Angeles. I didn't know that till he died, when I had people show up at his funeral and speak to me.
So let's go back to something. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
One of the things you said was being able to say his name.
Yeah.
How did it feel to hear the stories of your son?
Some of them, nobody told me any bad stories about him. I needed to hear. Jihad, we did this thing at his funeral called Simply Redeemed. Not perfect, Simply Redeemed. He was a believer. And that was the only comfort that I had when I saw him on that floor. Was I knew that he knew to call on the name of Jesus, and that he anointed himself in the protection of the Lord, period.
So thank you for sharing that. What to the person that's listening and thinking, how did he say that he gangbanged her? How'd that work?
You can't be a drunk and be gangbanging. You can't be a whore and be and believe in God. I believe the word says to pray about everything.
Okay.
Everything. I say that about parents. When it says honor thy mother and thy father, honor your crackhead mother and father. It's still your father and your mother. You wouldn't be here if God didn't put those two people together. If they put them with somebody else, it would be somebody else. It wouldn't be you. I wanted my children to know that whatever they did in this life made all sin is sin. And whatever you're doing, do it in a way that will be pleasing to God.
Okay.
So if you're involved in gangs, do it in a way that is pleasing to God. It is well that gangs got together to protect, and this is what he learned, to protect and to serve their community, their people. Not to rob and kill and steal. Not to have a fight over what color shirt you have on. That is what disturbed Jihad about. These are our conversations.
Right.
Why is this side of Springfield? He grew up with all those. So the ones on this side of the block and that side of the block, He was born on that side of the block. That was the Crips. He hung out on that side of the block. That was the Bloods. But he had to have interactions with all of them. And they teach each other in following people who are not knowledgeable, that have no wisdom. One of the things that he said was, yeah, I had a fight with one of the leaders because, first of all, he can't beat me. And second of all, he got a second grade education. And I don't believe that everybody should be listening to what he said. He felt that way. He wanted to make people think about this stuff. He saw it as we gonna have us a business and we gonna raise these kids and we gonna be a family. We are a family. And I don't, that was just might have been wishful thinking on his part, but it was his thinking of his young age. When he left for school and he came back to death of somebody who was younger than him. He stayed. He was still there. He was supposed to go back to North Carolina. The actual day, that night he died, that day he was supposed to leave, he was staying to the next weekend for the 3rd to memorialize a young man that had died, had been killed. He was a kid. I think he was about 14 years old, possibly 14, 15, that got killed in the hallway. And they were going to do a little celebration. That was the year. It was going to be the year, August the 3rd, which was that following weekend. So he was like, I'm going to stay. His ticket was purchased. He was supposed to be gone. So all those things, came to my mind. And again, over time, my calm thinking let me know that that was his destiny, that was his life, and that was his death. Not my life, not my death. I have to keep telling myself that.
I was going to ask you, how was it outliving Jihad?
It was devastating. And certain times now, it's devastating. When I look at my sons and my grandsons and having to overcome anxiety, anxiety that, be anxious for nothing, but I have to tell myself that over and over again. Their choices have consequences.
Girl, every day.
Everybody's does, but when your choices have consequences. He made the choice to stay an extra week. That was a choice. You understand? He made the choice. He made the choice to live and die where he was born. People were dying around him, so he knew the danger.
What would you say to the people in that community now?
Some of them have made me very proud. The ones that said came to me and in their devastation of Jihad's dying, like, Mommy, I'm gonna make something of myself. And they have. Some of them are stuck where they are. Their beliefs are what they are. But I do know this. Anybody that Jihad came across that did not know Jesus, that did not know God, he made sure that he was a reflection of God. My bishop made sure, no matter what he looked, they had some members of my church turn their nose up to him when we first started coming to the church. Boy, why you got them braids in your head? All that kind of stuff. And those people, Bishop made the example of, you look fine to me. You are going to greet the people. You're the usher. You understand?
You can always be used.
You can always be used.
Yield yourself.
And you can always, like, you're going to bring people that look like you into the church.
Right.
He brought people that, some of his friends. Let me tell you a funny story about him. Easter Sunday. Might have been 2002. They stole a car to bring the kids to church. They all had on, I will never forget it. They all had on, how you get the kids dressed up for church? They all had on 76er jerseys, which are purple and something, even the children. And they brought them to church in this car. And I'm like, how y'all get here or whatever? Around the corner from the church, they had a car that they stole to bring the kids to church.
I have no questions.
It was so hilarious when I found out. I didn't find out that day, but just to find that, oh my, that wasn't her car. They stole that car because they couldn't find a ride. That was incredible to me. That was an effort. He wanted to be in church. He wanted them kids to be in church on Easter Sunday. Hook or crook, and they made it to church.
What is like for you now?
Well, I still spend a lot of time by myself. It's very difficult. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, I cannot get my family to come together. One time, before I leave here, I would like to have all my family in the same place. We've had some family reunions that we called, we started calling Thanksgiving Family Unity Weekend because it was easy for people were off on Thursday, probably on that Friday, so it was a long weekend. However, that was Jahad's favorite holiday. I still have his turkey hands. And I still have in my mind, and I can hear him say, that's his favorite holiday. No presents, no nothing, no Santa Claus, no presents, just family and food, macaroni and cheese, turkey. I hear him say those things. That's so young. You're so young when you say that to me. I love Thanksgiving. I love it. Food, family. Macaroni and cheese. Cheese was his favorite, and his mom's favorite. But I could hear him say those words. I could hear him. I argue with him. I struggled to have him. He was the last child home with me. I struggled to have him live in Montclair, New Jersey. Like the rent 3-4 times higher than where I was from. To have him in that community, to get him out the hood, and I could not keep him out the hood. I caught the bus 6 o'clock in the morning, went banging and kicking down doors to get him. It was out of my control. All the last few years of his life, and being a teen and moving him into a new community, he was just drawn back down to that community. He didn't. These people fake. I don't want to be with them, His friendships, football. He played football, martial arts, all those things were the things that brought him friends that he made up there, but he really didn't care for any of the friends. That was his family down there, and he wanted to be there. It's as simple as that.
When we thought about, when the idea of this conversation, what made you want to do this?
I've been wanting to express his story, my story, not his story, my story, for a long time. And in pieces I have, but so that people could connect to my experience, all they could do was wonder what I've been through the last 21 years, where I've been, because for some people I disappeared out of their lives. My journey's been rough. It's been rough. My walk has been rough. I believe it's permissible to kill, but not to murder. And there's a difference. And people need to know what that difference is. Live by their consequences. Because if you murder, there's no repentance for that. That's what I believe. I believe that killing is permissible. In some, sorry. I thought I was gonna make you. With a drink. Well, you said you can get it out.
We are almost about to wrap up.
Okay. Okay, I want people in the communities that all these murders are happening in to stop having candlelight vigils and balloon releases and really do something about our kids murdering each other. I want the church to come outside the building and meet with and bring what you say out into the community. The people sitting in the church are professing to be saved already. So I believe my experience is to stay inside the walls of the church and not to go into the community who are having these experiences and putting yourself in the same danger, not going out at night, stroll. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actively going out and seeking out these parents of these murdered children and these parents of these murderers, because we are all victims of that. The person who shot my son had a mother. She's a victim of the actions of her son. He made a decision. And then he died. But even if he didn't die, I see families go to courts and to be there to support, but not to be there to agree. I don't agree with my kid killing your kid. I don't care what he called the reason. Oh, yeah, I don't have a band, whatever the reason, okay? I believe that we have to break a cycle. And in order to break it, you got to do something different. Everybody's doing the same thing. It's not effective. What we've done so far is not effective. Let's find an effective way as a people, not as a Christian or Muslim. Get out there as a church body, and because there's some people in church who got children sitting in prison for life who committed, and they praying all the time and they going to visit them or whatever. We need to do something as a people to break that cycle. It's a generational curse to stay ignorant in your doing. Like, how many candlelight vigils can we have? What is a candlelight vigil doing for the community to stop the next candlelight vigil? What is a balloon release in memory of someone doing to change it, to change the behavior, to change the comfort of this war zone that they living in? Like, every Friday, Saturday night, we're burying our children like they've been to war. Like, it's like the funeral parlors are the only ones getting rich because they got a funeral, they are lined up, they are booked with bodies of children, they babies. and they at the hands of other babies. So it's not a norm to go around killing each other. It's just not. And what are we doing about it? And I feel like the things that I wanted to do were not supported. In the way, like at first they said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. But then when it comes to putting boots on the ground, don't nobody want to put boots on the ground. Absolutely. What me and Michelle did that Friday night before Jihad was killed in a place where somebody had been shot the night, no, he was shot the next day and so many people had been. What we did, if that was being done throughout our communities all the time, just going out there, going out there, talking to people, not even religion, not even giving them religion, but giving them life. That's why I said the church are the people, the body of Christ. The church are the people. Come outside the church and be effective. That is what I believe. God, no matter what God you serve, we're supposed to serve humanity.
And how do you do that on your own individual basis?
I talk to people as much as I can. I share. I don't waste my breath and talk about the weather to people. If I get to talking, I'm talking about starting with your family. I believe that's why I've been wanting all of my family together.
No. Like, what are things that you do for your community, wherever your community is?
Oh, well, my community now, I spend a lot of time making sure people got food. People just need to eat. You got people that get $1,000 worth of stamps and their kids are hungry. You have older people or people who are struggling in retirement that their money's just not making it and they're not eating. They're not eating properly and they want to know why people are unhealthy because they eating the bare minimum. They have to decide whether to pay the light bill or buy groceries. So though that is a passion that I have, a food bank for working people, that they don't have to go and drop all their ID, Social Security card, all that, just to get food for their families. They don't have food. I don't care what kind of car they're driving. They're paying a car note, insurance, because they need to go to work. And when they go to work, they working paycheck to paycheck, and they can't buy groceries, period. So that is a passion of mine. That was a passion of my son's. He want to feed people.
Okay.
That was a passion of my brother who died in '87, just feed people. People got to eat, in order to be healthy, in order to, that's something that brings people together. Food will bring people together.
You start relaxing and talking and you start eating. I know we could go on and with this. Are there some things that you wanted to talk about we haven't covered?
If you are, let's say it to you. If you are guilty about your child dying, your children are your responsibility. So a lot of grieving parents, especially males, feel responsible, feel like they didn't protect them. They could have protected them. They could have changed it. There's absolutely nothing we could do to change the course of anybody's life. Everybody who takes their first breath in life is gonna die.
That part.
It's gonna die. And we hurt because of it, but it's a reality. And so if we live each day with everybody that we interact with, we say we love, as if it's going to be their last, and we're kind and gentle, and give people just some grace, the same grace we ask for when we mess up. Just give people grace. Give them space. Talk about say the name. You can say your child's name to anybody you want to. Just say it. Hadi, Jihad. I want to talk about him every time I get with anybody. I want to talk about him. I want to talk about who he had 21 great years of life. I cannot say that that boy didn't ride it till the wheels ran off, because he did. He did in 21 years what it take people 70 years old haven't done. So he enjoyed his life. He was defiant to me, but he was defiant to what made him comfortable and what made him happy. But I want to say to his siblings and my family, you just talk about him. It's okay. It's okay to talk about him. It's okay for you to cry when you talk about him. But it always turns into laughter, because he was that funny. Your socks, your clothes, his siblings, taking their clothes or whatever he did. Just talk about him. Release it. Breathe. Breathe. I know you got a lump in your throat. I got one in my throat right now where I feel like I want to cry. Breathe. Forgiveness. Our beliefs say that we're supposed to forgive. The hardest thing that I had to do was forgive the people that killed my son, that planned it, that put it together. It was a very hard thing to do. But you know what? The forgiveness is not for them. It's for me. Holding all that hate and anger and all that, it's just a cancer to your soul, to your bones. I just was sick, girl. I'm telling you, I was sick until I stood in my bedroom and called those people by name and told them that I forgive them. I could not heal. I was just sick. I'm telling you. I was sick, and because it was in there, I'm just, rage and anger. I was mad, Gotta forgive. It's for you. It's not for the person who committed any act. It's for you. We don't know. If you're not there, you don't know why people do what they do. You can't, you can guess it, but you don't know why people do what they do. You can only know what you do, and the forgiveness. Forgive the person who died. Forgive the person who left you. Whether it's your child, your husband, your mama, forgive them for leaving you. That was tough. I was mad at him. Why would you do that? Why would you leave me? Why would you put yourself in a position to hurt me? Why would you put yourself in a position to give me all this pain? Why? So I had to forgive Jihad for the role he played in dying. I had to forgive him. I felt like, follow the rules, The rules were given to you to keep you safe from all harm. But only God could keep us safe from hurt, harm, and danger. And nothing says that we won't get harmed. Nothing says that we don't know how we're going to leave here. We just don't.
But we can choose how we live.
We can choose how we come on. Right there. Right there, we can choose. And that's what I'm doing. I'm choosing to breathe.
I'm going to let you close out this conversation with whatever you'd like to say.
I'd like to say thank you to people who gave me grace and mercy and understanding. I'd like to say the grief process lives on, but there are levels. And I'm in the level that I'm happy to be grieving because without it, I can't feel. I wasn't feeling anything. So I'm happy to at least feel that. I just, this is not my last conversation about this. I want to answer in a big way. What do you do when your child kills my child?
Okay.
That's how I want to end this.
All right.
What do we do?
What do we do?
What should we do?
What should we do when my child kills your child?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Widowhood.
Thank you, Widowhood, for having me.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.